Hello. Drama lovers, welcome back to my channel. Today the pressure reaches a breaking point in Genoa City as Phyllis Summers finds herself backed into a corner with fewer options than ever before. After months of pushing boundaries, chasing secrets, and refusing to back down, Phyllis may finally be facing the consequences of her actions. Meanwhile, Devon Hamilton delivers a blunt reality check to Holden, making it crystal clear that he has no intention of becoming anyone's financial safety net. For Phyllis, the walls begin closing in from every direction. What started as a determined effort to uncover the truth has slowly transformed into a dangerous obsession. Throughout the ongoing mystery involving Matt Clark, the hooded figure, Diane's disappearance, and the shadowy network operating behind the scenes, Phyllis repeatedly ignored warnings from nearly everyone around her. Nick Newman warned her. Michael Baldwin warned her. Even Sharon expressed concerns. Yet Phyllis continued charging ahead. She convinced herself that rules only slowed progress. She believed her instincts would eventually lead her to the answers everyone else was missing. Now she is beginning to realize that confidence may have cost her dearly. The latest complications emerge after several investigative leads collapse unexpectedly. Information that Phyllis hoped would expose key players instead creates additional questions. Worse still, some of the people she trusted begin distancing themselves from her methods. Nick remains particularly frustrated. Although he understands her desire to uncover the truth, he can no longer ignore the chaos her actions continue generating. From his perspective, Phyllis has repeatedly placed herself and others in unnecessary danger. Their relationship becomes increasingly strained. Every conversation turns into an argument. Every disagreement grows more personal. The trust they once shared continues eroding. Meanwhile, Michael Baldwin spends much of his time attempting to contain the fallout from Phyllis's decisions. As legal concerns and procedural issues pile up, Michael finds himself cleaning up one problem after another. He understands that Phyllis means well, but good intentions do not erase consequences. The more Michael examines the situation, the more concerned he becomes. Certain mistakes cannot be undone easily. Certain lines cannot be crossed without repercussions. Eventually, Michael delivers a sobering assessment. Phyllis is running out of room to maneuver. If she continues operating independently and ignoring advice, she may find herself completely isolated. For perhaps the first time, that possibility genuinely frightens her. Meanwhile, Victor Newman continues pursuing every available lead connected to the larger conspiracy. Unlike Phyllis, Victor prefers strategy over impulsiveness. He understands that patience often produces better results than emotion. Recent breakthroughs strengthen his confidence considerably. Evidence recovered from surveillance networks, encrypted communications, and financial records suggest that the people behind the operation are becoming increasingly desperate. Mistakes are appearing. Patterns are emerging. The enemy is showing cracks. Victor views this as a turning point. The pressure he has applied for months is finally producing results. Elsewhere, Matt Clark continues struggling with the flood of memories returning to him. Each recollection reveals another hidden piece of the puzzle. Each revelation increases his guilt. Most importantly, each memory confirms that he was manipulated far more extensively than he originally understood. Matt now realizes he was never truly in control. He was being guided, pressured, and used by people whose identities remain hidden. The realization devastates him. At the same time, it fuels his determination to expose the truth before it's too late. Meanwhile, another dramatic storyline unfolds involving Devon Hamilton and Holden. For weeks, Holden has been navigating uncertain circumstances while attempting to establish his future. However, concerns begin emerging regarding his expectations and motivations. Several conversations raise questions about whether Holden is becoming too comfortable relying on others. Devon notices the pattern almost immediately. As someone who has spent years building his own success, Devon has little patience for entitlement. He respects hard work. He values responsibility. And he firmly believes every adult must ultimately create their own opportunities. Those beliefs shape his approach when Holden begins discussing financial concerns and future plans. At first, Devon attempts offering advice. He encourages independence. He suggests practical solutions. He emphasizes accountability. Unfortunately, Holden seems more interested in finding support than creating stability himself. That attitude quickly becomes a problem. During a tense exchange, Devon finally decides enough is enough. He delivers a blunt warning that leaves little room for misunderstanding. According to Devon, nobody should expect him to provide unlimited financial assistance or rescue people from situations of their own making. His message is direct. There will be no free ride, no automatic safety net, no guaranteed support simply because someone hopes for it. Holden is stunned by Devon's firmness. Although he expected guidance, he did not anticipate such a strong response. The confrontation forces Holden to examine his own choices more carefully. Meanwhile, Abby finds herself caught between competing perspectives. She understands Devon's frustration. At the same time, she worries his delivery may have been harsher than necessary. The situation creates additional tension among those connected to the family. As word spreads, opinions become divided. Some people agree with Devon completely. Others believe he should show more patience. Regardless of where individuals stand, one fact becomes impossible to ignore. Devon's warning changes the dynamic immediately. Holden can no longer assume help will automatically appear whenever problems arise. Elsewhere, Lily Winters finds herself dealing with her own frustrations. The continuing fallout from recent secrets and misunderstandings has left relationships strained. Trust remains fragile, and emotions remain raw. Watching additional conflicts emerge only adds to the growing sense of instability. Several people begin questioning whether the pressure affecting Genoa City is pushing everyone toward confrontations they might otherwise avoid. Meanwhile, Phyllis reaches a critical emotional crossroads. The reality of her situation becomes increasingly difficult to ignore. Nick's patience is fading. Michael's support has limits. Victor has little sympathy for self-inflicted problems, and several potential allies are growing cautious. For perhaps the first time since the investigation began, Phyllis wonders whether she has finally gone too far. The realization is painful. Throughout her life, she has trusted her instincts above almost everything else. Admitting mistakes has never come easily, yet recent events leave her with little choice. One setback follows another. One failed lead replaces the next. The confidence that once fueled her determination begins showing signs of wear. Meanwhile, Victor's investigation continues gaining momentum. Additional evidence surfaces. New connections emerge. The people operating behind the scenes appear increasingly vulnerable. Victor senses that a major breakthrough may be approaching. Unlike Phyllis, he remains disciplined enough to avoid rushing. Every move is calculated. Every decision serves a larger strategy. The contrast between their approaches becomes impossible to miss. One relies on instinct and emotion. The other relies on patience and control. As the investigation progresses, the effectiveness of Victor's methods becomes increasingly apparent. Elsewhere, Matt faces another difficult realization. The more he remembers, the clearer his future becomes. Even if he exposes the truth, even if he helps investigators, even if he saves lives, consequences still await him. That reality forces Matt to confront difficult questions about redemption, accountability, and sacrifice. His journey is no longer about escape. It is about deciding what kind of person he wants to be when everything finally comes to light. As night falls across Genoa City, Multiple lives stand at important crossroads. Phyllis faces the possibility that her latest disaster may leave her with nowhere left to turn. Devon makes it clear that Holden must stand on his own feet. Victor inches closer to the truth. Matt struggles with the weight of returning memories, and numerous families brace for whatever revelations come next. One thing is becoming increasingly obvious. The game is changing. Old strategies are failing. New alliances are forming. And the consequences of past decisions are finally beginning to catch up with everyone involved. When the next chapter unfolds, nobody will be able to avoid the fallout. As Phyllis Summers begins to realize just how isolated she has become, the consequences of her recent decisions continue piling up. What once felt like a mission to uncover the truth now feels increasingly like a battle she may not be able to win. The hardest part for Phyllis isn't the investigation. It's the growing realization that people she expected to stand beside her are beginning to lose faith. Nick Newman's warning continues echoing in her mind. Michael Baldwin's frustration remains impossible to ignore. Even those who understand her intentions seem increasingly unwilling to defend her methods. For someone as fiercely independent as Phyllis, the situation is deeply unsettling. Meanwhile, Nick finds himself wrestling with conflicting emotions. Despite their latest confrontation, he doesn't want to see Phyllis fail. He certainly doesn't want to see her face serious consequences. But he also knows that every reckless move creates new dangers. The investigation surrounding Matt Clark has already claimed too many victims. Too many lives have been disrupted. Too many families have suffered. Nick fears that if Phyllis continues down her current path, she could become the next casualty of the chaos. Elsewhere, Victor Newman grows more confident by the day. The latest intelligence gathered by his team paints a promising picture. Financial trails are leading somewhere. Communication records are revealing connections. Long-hidden patterns are finally emerging. For months, Victor felt as though he was fighting an invisible enemy. Now, he senses that enemy becoming vulnerable. Naturally, Victor has no intention of easing the pressure. If anything, he increases it. Every lead is pursued. Every clue is examined. Every possible weakness is exploited. Victor knows opportunities like this rarely last forever. Meanwhile, Devon Hamilton remains firm regarding Holden. After delivering his blunt warning, Devon refuses to soften his position. He genuinely wants Holden to succeed, but he believes success must be earned. Repeatedly rescuing someone from difficult situations doesn't help them grow. In Devon's opinion, it creates dependency. During another conversation, Devon makes his expectations even clearer. He encourages Holden to focus on building something for himself rather than waiting for opportunities to be handed to him. The advice isn't intended as cruelty. Quite the opposite. Devon believes genuine independence is ultimately more valuable than temporary assistance. Unfortunately, Holden struggles with the message. Part of him understands Devon's point. Another part feels abandoned. The tension between them continues simmering. Meanwhile, Abby finds herself attempting to keep the peace. She recognizes the validity of Devon's concerns. At the same time, she worries Holden may interpret the conversation as rejection rather than guidance. The situation becomes yet another source of stress for a family already dealing with multiple crises. Elsewhere, Lily Winters continues processing recent betrayals and disappointments. Trust has become a recurring theme in nearly every aspect of her life. Secrets, half-truths, hidden agendas. The constant uncertainty is exhausting. Watching Devon's conflict with Holden only reinforces her belief that honesty is more important than ever. Without trust, relationships begin falling apart. And lately, trust seems increasingly difficult to find. Meanwhile, Matt Clark faces perhaps the most important decision of his life. The memories returning to him have transformed everything. What once appeared confusing now seems painfully clear. He understands who manipulated him. He understands how events unfolded. And most importantly, he understands the devastating consequences of staying silent. For months, fear controlled every choice he made. Fear of exposure, fear of punishment, fear of powerful people operating behind the scenes. Now another emotion is beginning to take over. Regret. The weight of that regret becomes almost unbearable. Matt knows innocent people suffered because he remained silent. He knows lives were disrupted. Families were torn apart. Trust was destroyed. No amount of explanation can erase those facts. Yet he still believes he has one final chance to do the right thing. The question is whether he will get that chance. Meanwhile, Phyllis stumbles upon information that could potentially change everything. Unlike previous discoveries, however, she hesitates before acting. That hesitation alone represents a major shift. Normally she would charge forward without consulting anyone. This time she pauses. She thinks about Nick's warning. She remembers Michael's advice. And for perhaps the first time in months, she considers involving others before taking action. The moment marks a subtle but significant change. Whether it comes too late remains unclear. Elsewhere, Victor receives another encouraging report. The people behind the conspiracy appear increasingly desperate. Evidence suggests records are being destroyed. Communication channels are changing. Certain individuals are disappearing from familiar locations. To some investigators, these developments are concerning. To Victor, they are encouraging. Desperate people make mistakes, and mistakes create opportunities. As night settles over Genoa City, multiple storylines move toward inevitable collisions. Phyllis stands at a crossroads, forced to reconsider the choices that brought her here. Nick struggles to balance frustration with concern. Devon refuses to compromise his principles. Holden searches for direction. Lily demands honesty. Victor senses victory within reach. And Matt Clark prepares to reveal truths that could expose the entire conspiracy. What happens next could change everything. Because once hidden secrets begin emerging, they rarely stop. And when the truth finally comes out, some relationships will survive. Others won't. But nobody involved will walk away unchanged. As dawn approaches, the tension throughout Genoa City becomes impossible to ignore. The sense that everything is building toward a major reckoning hangs over nearly every family connected to the ongoing mystery. For Phyllis Summers, the situation has never felt more uncertain. For months, she convinced herself that persistence would eventually pay off. No matter how many obstacles appeared, she believed she could outthink the people hiding behind the conspiracy. But now she finds herself facing a reality she never expected. She may have lost control of the narrative. The realization is difficult for someone like Phyllis to accept. She has always trusted her instincts. She has always relied on her ability to survive impossible situations. Yet this time feels different. Too many variables exist. Too many secrets remain hidden. And too many people have stopped listening to her warnings. Meanwhile, Nick Newman notices a subtle change in Phyllis's behavior. For the first time in weeks, she appears less focused on proving herself right and more focused on understanding the full picture. Nick wants to believe it's progress. However, he also knows Phyllis well enough to recognize that she rarely stays on the sidelines for long. Even when she appears ready to step back, she usually finds another way to involve herself. That uncertainty keeps him on edge. Elsewhere, Victor Newman continues moving aggressively. Every new report strengthens his belief that the conspiracy is beginning to crumble from within. Individuals connected to the operation are making mistakes. Communication channels are becoming less secure. Hidden alliances are showing signs of strain. Victor sees all of it as evidence that pressure works. He tells Nikki that powerful people often appear invincible until the moment they begin losing control. Once that happens, panic takes over. and panic leads to errors. Victor intends to exploit every single one. Meanwhile, Devon Hamilton remains focused on Holden. Although their earlier confrontation was uncomfortable, Devon refuses to apologize for speaking honestly. In his view, protecting someone from reality does more harm than good. Life requires accountability. Life requires effort. And no amount of financial support can replace personal responsibility. Holden struggles to hear those lessons. Still, part of him knows Devon is right. The challenge now is deciding what to do with that knowledge. For perhaps the first time, Holden begins considering how much of his future depends on choices only he can make. Meanwhile, Lily Winters finds herself increasingly frustrated by the conflicts erupting around her. Everywhere she turns, people are keeping secrets. People are making assumptions. People are acting without communicating. The pattern feels familiar and exhausting. Lily becomes determined not to allow another misunderstanding to grow into a larger disaster. Whether others will share that determination remains uncertain. Elsewhere, Matt Clark reaches a crucial turning point. The memories returning to him no longer arrive in fragments. They are complete, detailed, impossible to ignore. For weeks, he feared remembering the truth. Now he fears what happens if he reveals it, because the picture forming in his mind is more disturbing than he imagined. The mastermind wasn't simply manipulating events. The mastermind was manipulating people, relationships, friendships, entire families. The operation thrived by turning people against one another while remaining hidden in the background. Matt finally understands how carefully the entire scheme was constructed. And understanding comes with a terrible burden. He may be the only person capable of exposing it completely. Meanwhile, Jack Abbott receives another promising lead regarding Diane. The information is far from conclusive, but it is enough to renew hope. Jack immediately begins coordinating efforts to follow up on the tip. Kyle joins him. Neither man wants to get ahead of themselves. Both have experienced too many disappointments already, yet neither can ignore the possibility that answers may finally be within reach. Elsewhere, Michael Baldwin continues monitoring the fallout from multiple directions. He worries about Phyllis. He worries about the investigation. And he worries about what might happen if the truth emerges all at once. Some secrets can destroy relationships. Others can destroy entire families. Michael fears this mystery may contain both. Meanwhile, Victor receives a message that captures his attention immediately. The communication is brief, anonymous, and highly specific. According to the message, someone close to the conspiracy is preparing to disappear permanently. At first, Victor assumes it could be a trap. Then investigators verify several details contained within the note. Suddenly, the warning becomes impossible to dismiss. If true, one of the key figures connected to the operation may be preparing an escape. Victor immediately orders action. Time is running short. Meanwhile, Matt realizes he can no longer wait. The truth is too important, too dangerous, too overdue. He begins preparing a complete account of everything he remembers. Names, locations, meetings, instructions, every detail. If something happens to him, he wants the information to survive. The decision brings unexpected peace. For months, fear dictated his life. Now purpose replaces fear. For the first time in a long while, Matt knows exactly what he must do. Back in Genoa City, Phyllis receives a shocking piece of information from an unexpected source. The revelation connects several mysteries that previously seemed unrelated. As she studies the details, her expression changes dramatically. Suddenly, she understands why certain events unfolded the way they did, why specific people became targets, why chaos seemed to spread so easily. The discovery leaves her stunned and terrified, because if her conclusion is correct, the person at the center of everything is far closer than anyone realized. Much closer. As the day comes to an end, every major player finds themselves moving toward the same inevitable destination. Victor is closing in. Nick is searching for answers. Jack is pursuing hope. Lily is demanding honesty. Devon is standing firm. Phyllis is uncovering dangerous truths. And Matt Clark is preparing to expose secrets that could bring the entire conspiracy crashing down. The game is entering its final stage. And when the next move is made, Genoa City may never be the same again.